Howdy.
Hey Jason, how's it going?
Not too bad yourself?
Doing good. You had good Easter dinners and all that fun stuff with family.
Oh yeah,
Excellent.
all stuff. How about you? How was your Easter weekend?
Well, it went well. Saturday was just a nice, relaxed day, and got two good walks in. So I went for a hike on at Snake Hill in the morning, and then I decided to go for another nice long walk in the evening, where I just walked into Sundre and back and stuff like that. It was a good 5K walk or so. And then Sunday morning, I did my fifth run, my fifth training run, and then went to church for breakfast at church, and then came into Airdrie and went for dinner with my uncle and his oldest grandson.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very,
So
very cool.
yeah. All right. So uh I'm open to doing a podcast session. I think that's kind of what we were talking about. Uh,
Okay.
so I know you got season two laid out here for the Bold Project kind of idea,
hmm
uh, and stuff. So I'm assuming we're gonna kind of start talking about the ins and outs of this throughout the season.
Yeah. Let me come back. I'm hearing your voice is a little bit tinny to me. I'm gonna exit and then come back and make see if that fixes things.
Okay. All right. How do I sound now?
Much, much better.
Okay. Good. All right. Yeah.
So.
Okay.
So, do we want to start with the introduction, or do we want to get right into episode one?
So let's see. Episode one: Violence never starts with a punch. Episode was yeah. Season two introduction is. I was reading through this a little bit before we hopped on, uh,
hmm
and is this kind of is this kind of outlining the behavior mapping system or not really?
No, no, this outlines the entire like what's going to be happening throughout the entire episode. How it, it's more behavior focused, yes, but it's not going to necessarily talk about the behavior mapping system. It's
Okay.
more talking about how the issue of why men have become so indoctrinated to be to use like for lack of a better word, pussies.
Yeah.
And and what can be done about it, because really the entire episode, this entire season is more geared towards the language and the conditioning that men endure that
Yeah.
strip away their authority and their ability to lead.
Right.
This is really the insidious underbelly that most men don't talk about, one because they don't know that it's an issue, and two because it's very uncomfortable.
Right. Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, there's definitely a lot of great stuff in all this because yeah, it's a very valid. very valid um, issue for sure. Because even talking with men and stuff, like even talking to some of the men at church and stuff like that, like you get some of the
Mhm.
sense of this stuff, right? Like they
Yeah.
and yeah, and one of the other things that I was talking to a fellow the other day, and it's like the hard part is with a lot of this stuff, especially working with men, and I mean I even see it in myself, right? Like I'm involved with other coaching programs and stuff, and I get engaged, and then I back off, and then I get engaged, and then I back off, and it's like, and um, it's not that I don't value what's being taught and all that other kind of stuff. It's just you get stuck in your head for a little bit, and it's like, well, like I'm doing okay, and and all those same lies that we kind of tend to tell ourselves, and I mean, at some point, yes, I am doing okay, right? Like that's not. I'm not saying that I'm dependent on these things, um, but at the same token, like I still see flaws in my system, right? Where the old
Mhm.
behaviors come up and all that kind of stuff, right? So yeah, typical. The ongoing growth and learning process for all of us, right? As human beings.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
yeah.
So we'll start with the intro. If you want, if you have time, we can actually do the intro and we can do episode one. Just have a small break and then do go into episode one unless you want to save that for another time.
Um, well, I won't be able to do much for editing both of them because like I'm leaving Wednesday to go
Oh,
to
okay.
Tacoma, right? So um yeah, it'll be a stretch even to get this one edited, but um I think I'll be good. Well, I'll
Okay.
make it work. Yeah.
All right, cool. So yeah, let's do this one. That's fine.
All right. Okay, so now comes now that we've rebranding to the Forge. That's my next question. So I'm totally cool with doing the introduction and all stuff. Do I even bother mentioning that we're rebranding the podcast to the Forge and or we just go with it
I say we just go with it. I don't think there's any need to really we can include that probably. Hmm.
as a separate short video after, like a short little
Yeah.
at the end?
Yeah, we could just do a short video at the end. That's fine.
Okay. All right. All right. Cool. All right. So yeah, I think well, yeah, I don't know this off the top of my head, so I don't. That's the other part is like I don't like. Um, maybe what I can do. Um, I'm gonna try something here.
Or we can fit the introduction for the Forge into the introduction of season two. As part of season two, we can or as part of this intro for season two, we can talk about how we are rebranding as the Forge, and here's why. Here's what's going to be covered.
Okay. So I now got the write up right here beside me. And if I'm going to be looking at the screen, how often does it look when I'm looking just to the left or to the right?
It's noticeable, but I don't think it matters that much.
Okay. Okay. Because I'm thinking that I can. I'm thinking, except this is the Bull Project. They'll be welcome to the Forge. And then
Hmm.
I'll just read the opening just as it is, right? Like this season exists to many men, or because too many men feel something is off and cannot quite name it. Blah blah blah, blah, right?
Hmm.
So okay, all right, and then we can go into the talking topics right after that. All right. Okay. Ready? And three, two, one. Welcome to the Forge. This season exists because too many men feel something is off and not quite, or start over. Welcome to the Forge. This season exists because too many men feel something is off and cannot quite name it. And because waiting for certainty has quietly become the most dangerous habit modern men share. This is not a podcast about motivation. This is not a podcast about opinion. This is not a podcast about whining arguments or winning arguments. I'm going to pause there again because I can pause between there. This is not a podcast about winning arguments. This season is about leadership, and leadership begins with behavior. If you are listening for comfort, this season will feel demanding. If you're listening for clarity, this season will feel familiar in a way you might not be able to explain yet. So, welcome, Jason. We're starting a new season, and I'm excited to be here with you. It's been a while since we've been on the podcast together. We've been doing a lot of things behind the scenes, and I'm excited to dig into this with you.
Well, yeah, and I think this is the first time that we've actually have something that is more than just a talking point, because where we renamed it the Forge, there was a real energy that was behind it, and the whole idea that men are really forged in the fire of experience and are called into something greater. It it adds a little more weight to what we're doing here, and it provides a little more direction. And you're right, this is not something where we're giving any kind of just shallow advice, or we're looking for opinion. We're really looking to talk to men about why they're in trouble, and as a group, as a complete gender, we're being really assaulted, not only from the idea of feminism, but also from other men who have also bought into the idea of that the role of masculinity is somehow bad. And we need to get out of that thinking, because without masculinity, we are completely directionless, because the idea of masculinity, the whole role of masculinity, is to provide direction and then to take the risk in order to make that direction um, achievable in as much as a shared goal that we need to achieve. And so we've created this rebrand because it's really important to help men understand that not only are they important, but also there's a lot going on that we really need to talk about, that men are dealing with, that they either haven't thought about, they haven't really been able to put language to, and that there's frustration there, or that they have they've come to accept that a new way of doing things is supposed to be the new standard. And I got to tell you, that is anything but the case. We're dealing with something that is really insipid in it's in its way that it has seeped into the idea of what men are, trying to redefine men as something other than what they've been for the past 300 millennia, and to to marginalize the experience of what men bring in order to achieve a an agenda. And anytime you do that, anytime you have any kind of change that's happening because of an agenda, not only does it fail spectacularly, but the entire human condition, it suffers.
And we can no longer afford to be quiet about this. And that's one of the reasons why we have, for myself personally, and I know for yourself as well, Jason, that we have chosen to go down this path of working with men and helping them become leaders in their homes, leaders in their communities, strong fathers, um, compassionate, powerful husbands that rekindle powerful or beautiful relationships with their wives. And there's, well, going through a divorce myself, and I know Jason, you went through a divorce in your past, and you've had to work through a lot of stuff as well. It's an ongoing journey. It's a day by day, moment by moment journey for us men, and the battles we face every day are real. And we can no longer afford to be quiet about it as men. And that's something that we've been taught for so many years of our lives. Just buck up, be quiet. Nobody cares about what's going on in your life. Just deal with it. And that kind of attitude literally erodes away at the man in his heart and mentally and physically and so many other ways. It's just, I could put out a huge list and just keep going on. But when we really start to understand that there's more behind us as men, there's more that we have to offer, not only for those who are in our immediate presence, but to mankind, to humankind overall. We're true blessings. We're the we're yeah. There's so much that is needed from us, and what we want to do through the Forge is we want to continue to empower men, to teach them that it's okay to take care of themselves. It's okay to reach out to each other and talk about the stuff that's really on the plate with them in the moment, and help them and guide them to being a leader, as and to really be uh live into their fullness.
Absolutely. And that's one of the biggest reasons why we've created this season, because we want to make sure that men understand that we're no longer in a phase of accepting what we've been told. It actually, we should never have been in that phase to begin with, because part of masculinity is to question what we've been told and then to figure out how to do better than what was before. And what we need to understand is what we've been living in for the past, I don't know, I'd say close to about 50 years, clearly even before my time, is we have been living in a slow but methodical decay of the role of men, of the significance of men, this belief that men don't really provide anything, that they're optional and that they are unnecessary unless it fits someone else's agenda. And this this idea has been so gradual and so underneath the surface that men don't really notice it, because oftentimes I know that I have been taught this for a long time, and I'm sure that there are other men that have as well, that men don't have to actually start taking action unless there's something serious that is wrong.
Mhm.
And the problem with that is if there's something that is underneath the surface that is just kind of eroding, slowly eroding, that sense of immediacy isn't there. It's like the frog in the pot, where the pot just begins to slowly rise in temperature, and the frog is completely unaware that's about to get cooked. And so when man sees that there is a need for action, when men see that there is that need, it almost becomes too late. The ground below them has become so eroded that they have no place to stand. And so they are not taken with any kind of seriousness. So what we need to do is we need to take that step back and say, okay, where can we actually draw that line to say this is where we start to take action and this is where we push forward? And to do that, we have to understand what is really going on, what the messaging is, what the beliefs are that are causing men to lose that ground, to be seen as insignificant, and to unfortunately accept the idea that they can take a backseat role, which men should never do. Because again, masculinity is not a backseat kind of energy. It is very much an active energy, what I call expressive leadership. The idea of, if you think about leadership in its traditional terms, that's expressive. The idea of doing something, the idea of taking charge and finding out what the shared goal is, and making sure that the conflict is uh, it is resolved so that we can get there. And so, what we need to do is we need to really understand how systems have eroded and the tolerance that has allowed that to happen, and how the authority has dissolved through our own silence, and then also be able to understand how we can successfully escalate through permission, not through force, using not only our own abilities to take charge, but also find a way for other people to believe in us again, so that we can move forward. And yes, while there is an agenda that is causing men to lose that ground, the agenda can also fall in on itself if men just stand up and do something. It's one of the beautiful things about being men is that we have the ability to, once we decide to take action, we move forces, and we take action in a way that's undeniable. We have to get back to that place. We have to do it in a way that we begin to other people sorry other people begin to see us as a force to be reckoned with, and something that can be rallied behind, so that our efforts become even better and bigger. And I think that's what we're going to be really focusing on in this season, is how to do that, how to really understand how that all works.
And the beautiful thing about what we're talking about is it doesn't necessarily have to take an extended period of time for some of these corrections, one, to start taking place, but for two, for them to have a very fairly quick transformative effect, especially when it's done consistently over time. And that's the beauty of it, is a lot can happen in a very short period of time, once you go through the process of rebuilding trust, rebuilding safety, and all these things that that get lost over time due to passivity, due to the erosion that we've been talking about, uh, up to this point. And so, as we're talking about this, like this is where we start getting into where the core errors that men have been making. And we kind of tapped into it a little bit, but I mean, men have been trained to endure and to just kind of, like push through, and there's a great element to that. There's something about resilience and perseverance that is that does make us as men very powerful. And I know some ladies are able to handle this as well. But that's at the same time, that sense of endurance feels like strength, but at the same time, it's eroding our foundation. And so, under that ambiguity, endurance turns into passivity. And that in itself is a problem. Is when we start becoming passive in our relationships, passive in the things that we do, we lose confidence in ourselves. The people around us start to lose confidence in us. We start to erode away our safety, the safety in the relationship. We start to erode away the trust, and it just continues to crumble more and more and more. And so when we learn to start taking action, and I believe that first action starts with us, within ourselves, and what's going on within ourselves, and really taking that hard look at where we are at mentally, where we're at emotionally, where we're at physically, and where we're at in well, even financially in our lives and the things that we do in our business, but in our relationships. If we are open to take that deep, hard look and start with ourselves instead of blaming, Because that's the other thing that society has taught us to do, is to blame everything outside of ourselves. Blame our spouse, blame the government, blame our work situation, blame this, blame our parents. And yes, those are all have been influences in our lives, and there's a lot of uncontrollables in that environment. But when we really start to look first at ourselves and what's going on within ourselves, and start taking action within there, that's where the magic happens. I can't hear you, Jason.
That's because I was on mute. You're really doing a great job of outlining that psychological trap that men find themselves in because they allow ground to be given up because they want to be accommodating. It's it is that sense of wanting to serve through leadership and then provide the opportunities for others to thrive as well. Because men don't want to just be seen as a totalitarian or a authoritarian type of person. We're not tyrants. We have a role, but at the same time, we're not going to do something that is unwanted. And the mistake is to believe that when men are acting at their best, that it is a sense of doing something wrong, especially when it's unwanted. Like as as a parent, when you are dealing with an unruly child, and instead of being the disciplinarian the parents are supposed to be to guide their children, you accommodate the behavior. All it does is it teaches that child that the behavior works. And so it happens more and more. And I think that's where we're finding ourselves now is we have allowed behaviors to occur that are now jeopardizing the role of men. Yes, we're great workers, but we're being seen as nothing more than a walking wallet. We're being seen as nothing more than someone who is going to do for others because it's expected of us. The moment things become expectation, they no longer become service oriented. They become ownership oriented, almost like men become glorified slaves. And that shit stops as soon as a man decides that he's going to take responsibility for himself. And that's kind of the antidote. What you were describing, as far as the idea of looking around you and seeing what's wrong. The one thing that's not happening is men are not taking responsibility for what they have done, for how they have conducted themselves, what they have allowed, and what they have failed to correct. And that is huge. By understanding what has been allowed to happen and what has not been created, you begin to understand that we have become co-creators of the hell that we find ourselves in right now, and how important it is to stop that and to right the ship so that it doesn't go completely off course.
Yeah, and that was the first thing that I had to learn post divorce. Like there was a part of me that did acknowledge that I did certain behaviors and stuff like that that led to the divorce, but it was always at a surface level. And I was always, yeah, I did this and this, but she did this, 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 this. Yeah, I did this, but she did this, 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 this. And so there's always that caveat to it. And once I started stripping away, but she did, I just looked at, okay, this is what I did. This is now what I have to look at and what I have to face and take responsibility for. That's when I really started noticing the changes in my life leading up to where I am today. And I still have more to go, but that's part of the life journey. And that is why we are here. And this is what we are bringing the season for, because we want to, one of the things that we want to correct in this season is this idea of waiting for certainty. If you're going to wait for certainty, you're going to be waiting for a long time. As I've outlined in a speech that I wrote recently, faith is an action word. It means if you feel the urge to move, start moving. Take that first step. Or waiting for or hoping for things to self correct. Things don't self correct. If you think about a house, and if you got a leaky roof, if you don't go up there and find out where that damage is, that water is going to keep leaking in, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And if your relationship is in turmoil now, it's not just going to automatically self-correct if you don't do anything about it. And not doing something about it starts with you, not with your partner. Outsourcing responsibility um, to systems or processes or titles. One of the books I've been reading is about leadership. And a lot of people get this idea that, well, once I get a certain title, well, then I will become a leader. And that's not true. You start becoming a leader the moment you start um, learning to provide some discipline within your own life. You start becoming a leader when you start taking action towards influencing other people, towards a greater cause of something better. Because leadership doesn't require certainty, it requires early engagement while options still exist.
And this is really the core of it. Something you said about how leadership starts when you start taking responsibility for yourself, when you start learning how to lead yourself, because all leadership is self-leadership, and it's all about what you decide is going to be um, permissible and what is going to be acted upon. And that's something that many men have to relearn, because men have been leading from reaction, from taking things after the necessity is there, and then acting once things become real, instead of figuring out what needs to be done and being proactive to keep the things from becoming um, urgent. There's this great book um, by Dan Heath. It's called Upstream, I think it's called. And really, it talks about how to take things from becoming urgent, or stop things from becoming urgent and deal with them when they're important. And really, it's the idea of understanding how to be less reactive and more proactive. And the best leaders are the ones that are more proactive. Yes, there are times when reaction is necessary, but the more minimum you keep it, the more you actually have available, the more resources you have available, mental, emotional, and physical, to deal with the things that are important instead of always reacting to what is urgent. The more you stay in reaction mode, the less you're able to deal with things that really matter, because you're always trying to plug a hole or deal with something as it happens. It means that you don't have any room to deal with the things that really matter, that are going to keep things from becoming that urgent. And so really what this season is going to be about is ensuring that to help understand where a threat begins, how it begins, and how to identify it. Also, it's going to help you understand where the freeze happens when you are dealing with a tense situation, and how to shorten it so you become more proactive and you're able to deal with it in a better way. It's also going to help men to understand how to um, how to become less predictable. Well, kind of less predictable, but more understand the ways in which life tries to make men more predictable so that they can become more controlled, and how that is actually a bad thing, because men were never meant to be controlled, at least not in the way that we're going to be talking about. Understanding how early discomfort creates long-term success. Um, Something that I learned very young, or earlier in my life, is that discomfort is temporary when you know what you are going for, but regret usually lasts a lot longer. And the discomfort you endure in order to achieve something is usually going to be seen as something that you are proud of once you have achieved what you want, versus letting life pass you by and regretting the discomfort you did not endure, by seeing that how life has happened and what you could have done instead. We're also going to be talking about how silence really causes men to lose ground, and how silence is being used incorrectly. Also, how silence can be used correctly to gain ground. So we'll be talking about that dynamic as well, and also how movement becomes one of the most important things that men can have in their life. And movement is a very general term. And we're going to be talking about it in that generality as well as being more specific, but showing how movement actually is really important. And the reason why we're doing all this is because what we want to do is we want to help men understand that we're not defined by how we react. We're defined by what we decide and how proactive we want to be. The more proactive we are, the more control we have in our lives. And it also comes from understanding what we can control, what we're supposed to be in control of. And so this idea is to help men become better leaders, and to become better leaders in a way that fosters that sense of invitation for others to want to lead as well. Like I said, all leadership is self leadership. So all that we can do is take the responsibility that we can, so others are inspired to take responsibility themselves.
Yeah, I really appreciate how you laid that out. And there's a couple of things I want to highlight that I really appreciated what we just shared is that um, you tapped into the idea of the four quadrants that were outlaid in the Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, where you have the um, urgent and important, the not urgent but important, and then you have the urgent but not important, and not important and not urgent. Those four quadrants. And ideally, as laid out in that book, and it may have been laid out before that in other books, but that's the one I get it from. You want to be in that quadrant too, where you're dealing with the things that are important in life, but they're not urgent. And yes, there's those uncontrollables that we mentioned before that will elevate things to that urgent and important. Um, but as you shared, like we want to keep those to a minimum. And and the other thing that really is coming up for me in regards to what you're sharing about, like with yes, leadership is very much about ourselves first, and then outside of ourselves, it's more about influence than it is anything else, because it's our ability to take our vision, our dream, the goal that we have, and to inspire others to work alongside us to accomplish the similar thing. It's not about dictating or cracking a whip and or micromanaging or saying this is the outline, whatever, you have to follow it explicitly, because people aren't going to follow it unless they feel inspired to do so. And so that um that's the true essence of when and it starts from within us, because people are going to read it from us. If we want to create a stronger family within our home, if we want to create a stronger relationship with our wives, we have to believe in our own hearts, one, that I have something of value to offer to the relationship with my wife, but two, I have to be willing to see the value in her and pour into her and inspire her to see the same thing. And that's through taking action. It's through building safety. It's through rebuilding that trust that has been eroded. And that's done through taking action and not being passive about it. And it's and like I said earlier, a lot can happen in a short period of time, but at the same token, it still takes time to build, and it's a continuous thing. It's not a one and done thing. Oh, well, I did this one time, and because I did it this one time, I should be good for the rest of my life. But no,
It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way.
no, no. It's done through consistency. It's done through Um,
That's good.
and it's continually worked on. It's continually refined. I think of whenever you're building a skill, and I think of sculptors, right? Like you think of somebody who's we'll just say even creating something out of stone, right? You look at the first early carvings and stuff like that, they may not be so great to look at. But over time, as the person crafts their skill, as they're able to discover new techniques, new polishing techniques, they can really bring whatever they're crafting to life through that. And it's the same thing with our own lives. Our own life is a craft in the sense of constantly learning, constantly enhancing our skills, constantly um, sometimes we're learning, sometimes we're unlearning because the thing that worked before isn't working anymore, right? And so it's just a constant um, movement, as you shared earlier in that too, Jason.
Absolutely. And I think you're gonna find that the men that resonate most with this are gonna be the ones who have the broad shoulders. They're gonna be willing to break a couple of eggs. They're gonna be willing to be unconventional for a bit and be seen as someone that may not be following the rules because they aren't. The rules are broken. The rules were not meant for men to succeed. So they kind of have to break the rules a little bit, and they have to do it in a way where they're going to be scrutinized. They're going to be attacked a little bit, and so they have to be okay with that. They have to be willing to um, take action before they're given responsibility, but before they're given permission. Excuse me, to take that action. They have to be willing to be a bit early in the way that they understand and assess and just act without people understanding why. Because sometimes you have to do something that you know is right, regardless of what other people are saying and how they are critiquing you. And they have to be willing to absorb that friction in order to be successful, in order to move forward, because there is going to be friction. We're dealing with inertia here, and we have to break that inertia in order to create something better. And only when you are willing to move against the grain and do something that you know is right, even though it's not popular, just continually doing what you know is right, eventually you will make enough headway where others will say, huh, maybe we should be paying attention. But before that, you're going to get scrutinized because it's as the rule of doing something different. I think what it's called, but basically first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they hate you, and then you win. And so you have to deal with those three areas of being ignored, being laughed at, and then being hated. And then finally, other people seeing that you are continually moving forward, regardless of that, and that there's something to this. You are gaining momentum. You are gaining your own personal inertia that people can then see and fall into. It takes a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of stamina to keep going, emotional and mental stamina to keep going. But this is what men were built for. And this is not a this is not the kind of podcast you don't want to listen to if you're looking for reassurance or you're looking to be told that you're a good person just because you're doing something. This is not about that. This is about men who want to become leaders and men who wants to lead better. Because that's the only thing we're going to be talking about is how to lead better and how to become the kind of man that your wife, your son, your daughter, your even your parents would be proud of, even if they don't understand at first why you're doing what you're doing. But eventually they see the fruits of your labor, being someone who is willing to be different, being someone who is willing to act against the grain because you know that is what's right. And being willing to do that at the expense of being liked, being popular, being accepted. Because I don't know any man who should want to be accepted in this current climate where our efforts are being marginalized and we are being seen as nothing but a meal ticket that can be taken advantage of. I don't see any upside to that at all. So we're looking for what we're doing is we are helping men who are looking for a language they can use to really describe how it is they feel, what they need to do, and then just get it done.
Yeah, and that again, that just starts with them taking responsibility for themselves, and there is going to be that resistance that you talked about, and especially for those of you men who are married and have had a certain relationship where you haven't been a strong leader in that marriage, and or even if you've been in a relationship where maybe you've been overbearing and your marriage has been broken that way. Making these changes is going to cause resistance because it's going to take time for your spouse to acclimatize, as you can say, to your new behaviors, and it's going to take time to rebuild that safety and that trust. And there's going to be triggers, and it's going to have challenges throughout it, and that's natural. And but it's again having that perseverance to stay consistent, as Jason talked about, knowing in your heart that this is the right path for me to be on. I am making the correct course corrections. It's I'm not going to be perfect at it, but I'm going to keep working at it every day, moment by moment, and I'm going to take responsibility for the good results that happen and the poor results that happen. And I'm going to learn from both and and continue to refine what I'm doing for the rest of my life.
This is the this is the part that really needs to be hit home. You have touched on something that is going to be the core bedrock of everything that we talk about, and that is the commitment be to be the new kind of man that they've always envisioned themselves to be, to know what they can be, and then to make the commitment to be uncomfortable at first and see it through. Be willing to move against the grain, the willingness to be scrutinized, to be made fun of, to also have people threaten to leave them and just ignore them and have them abandoned. Being okay with that, and because knowing that what they are doing is more important, the way that they are moving, the way that they are blazing that new path that is the path that should have been walked the entire time, is more important than the acceptance of what someone else believes they should be, and being unwilling to do anything else, because this is going to take a major commitment. This is going to take a major desire to see things through, knowing that it's not going to be easy, knowing that this is going to be a very hard yet also very rewarding path that they take, and being willing to go through it, the willingness to put themselves in that kind of discomfort in order to achieve what they really want to achieve. And so it takes the ability to understand um, what kind of certainty they're willing to commit to. It takes the understanding what kind of silence actually signals maturity versus signals permission, and also understanding um, what they need to do in order to embrace their success and be willing to suffer the embarrassment by doing that which is un it's seen as uncomfortable or against the grain, not suitable for the current climate of culture. Because screw the current climate of culture, it is not benefiting men at all. So why should we move within that framework? And really, the way that a man becomes seen as a leader is when he knows the outcomes that he wants to achieve. It makes steady, dedicated progress towards that outcome, and then he recognizes that the outcome that he is going towards and the work that he is doing is making the difference by seeing how others are being inspired by his efforts. Though the inspiration is not the goal, inspiring others is not the goal, it is to achieve that which he knows is important, and making steady progress towards that. But the fact that he is doing that is going to cause people to take notice, and the right people will be inspired to take action based on that and work towards something better.
And I think the biggest part to hit home on this idea of commitment is it's more than just a decision. You can decide all day long to do something, but if you're still just sitting on the couch, you haven't taken the action to do it. And so after that decision comes the first step, and then the next step, and then the next step. And yes, we can paint an idea of what that looks like, and we can give some guidance, and we can create a framework for that. But ultimately, it comes down to you and yourself and your own, and what's going on and what's burning within you. Because that's what's really important. We're not here to make a bunch of clones of ourselves. We're here to we're here to create a burning desire within yourself to bring that what's already inside of you out. Because only you really truly know what's inside of you. That's the truth. Because each and every one of us, I believe, have been created in a unique way, and we all have something that's powerful within us that will not only impact our lives but the lives of those around us. And you know, you think about there's so many different references I can make to right? Like you talk about inventions and how people, through that cycle. I got this idea. I'm going to create this thing. And the first thing you get is, oh, you can't do that. You can't do that. Oh, that's impossible. You can't do that. And all of a sudden, boom. Well, I did it. Lots of people are doing it. Right. And that's just a physical thing. I mean, the same thing happens in relationships. It happens whether you're building a business. Even we look at now, there's the exploration of space, right? We got the Artemis 2 up there with astronauts going around the moon and stuff like that. And I know there's a lot of controversy about that, and I'm not going to get into the whole whether it's fake or real or whatever. That's right, but that's ingenuity. That's people coming up with this vision. We're going to get to the moon. And yes, I do believe that it happened in the 60s and 70s. And yes, I do believe, my own personal belief, that we're doing it again because I know what man is capable of. I know what we're capable of. And I know what's capable, I know what's potential, that potential that's within you, that what's capable within you is there. It's just wanting to come out. And it's going to take the commitment. It's going to take commitment from you. It's going to take continually putting one foot in front of the other to get there.
And this season is really dedicated to helping men understand how to take the first step and help them understand how knowing the direction you want to go in is so much more important than applying any kind of pressure to get the result that you want. By knowing the direction and making steady progress towards that, you create a power around you that is so much more important than trying to be forceful. There's a book by Dr. David Hawkins, not to be confused with Stephen Hawking, but David Hawkins, called Power versus Force. Excellent book if you want to read it. It really talks about the dynamics between being forceful versus being powerful and why being powerful is so much more important. And so by having direction, you create that power. And by understanding where that direction is going to lead and what that direction is going to result in, having that clarity is so much more important than how fast you get there. In the military, we learn this idea that slow is smooth and smooth is fast. By being deliberate and taking deliberate action and knowing exactly what you're doing, you create a smoothness in your action that seems fast, but is really just deliberation. Well, not deliberation, sorry, it's being deliberate in order to get where you want to go. And this is what allows you to take the early action, because once you know what the goal is, the direction is going to be, what you have to do to get there, and you're very clear on the steps you have to take, then you can just act. And you don't have to ask for anyone's permission. If you're asking permission, you're too late because someone else has done it without needing permission from you. And oftentimes the people who do something without needing permission oftentimes don't have the kind of insight that we're going to be providing. And so they do it wrong, or they do it in a way that gives a message that is not going to land correctly. It isn't going to land as well as it could. So to end this episode, really all we're doing right now is laying the framework. We're giving you a peek into what we're really going to be talking about this season. And this is meant to be a wake-up call, not so that you start to panic, but so that you start to plan. Not so you lead with any kind of aggression, or you begin to wind yourself up, but that you begin starting to understand where it is you want to go, and then plotting your direction. It's to become very responsible in your actions, take responsibility for what you can, and then commit to the action of following through on that responsibility, because that is all within your control. And by focusing on what you can control, you are able to affect so much more than if you try to focus on the things you have no control over, because they were never something that you could affect anyway. So understanding how your behavior affects your leadership is the has always been the primary undercurrent of everything we've talked about. And it's going to go further with that. We're going to be leaning more into that, and we're going to be doing that in a way that shows how men are meant to be great leaders, and how when they change their behavior in this way, they become planners, they become deliberate, they become clear, and then they just act. They can not only change their behaviors for the better, but also they can inspire others to do the same.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this season as we move forward. And I want to thank everybody who's joined us so far on this journey, because this in itself is going to take a commitment. What we are what we are putting together in regards to these episodes, what we're putting together to through the coaching programs and all stuff that we are building in the background of this podcast, it takes commitment. The life that you are desiring to live, the outcomes that you are desiring to have, the relationship that you're desiring to have with your wife, it's all going to take commitment. And we're going to be here with you on that journey. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys.
Right.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, I have to go because nature is calling and it refuses to be ignored.
All right. Sounds good. Well, yeah, no, this is a good start. And yeah, like I shared, next week I won't be available because I'll be in Tacoma.
Yep.
And so the week after that will be another podcast. But yeah, and I guess we'll have to touch base in regards to any slides or anything that we'll want to put together for the next men's breakfast on the 25th. So
Okay.
yeah, because that's going to come up pretty quick too.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I
Let's
will
go.
I'll catch you later.
Yeah. Bye for now.